Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Caleb Davis Show. I am Caleb Davis, and with me, as always, my man J Mo.
Hello there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jay, how are things, my friend?
Things doing well, man. Can't complain. Just happy to be here, talk about music. How about you, buddy?
Now, things are they're splendid.
That's what happens. So really, that's what people do whenever the answer doesn't flow naturally.
That's fact.
It seems like you're just grumbling with boiling over frustration. How you doing, buddy? I'm swell. Great.
Forget we're on camera. I was getting ready to answer you honestly, and I was like, everything is wonderful.
It is okay. We'll be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
True.
Everything's going to be okay.
It's so true. And we have a fun night planned this evening.
Absolutely.
We're going to look at an album review from one of the most up and down with people, depending on who you are, bands on the planet. Would you not say?
They are, I will say, simultaneously over and underrated. Like, they're unique.
Okay.
In some camps, they're overrated. In some camps, they're definitely underrated. I would err on the side to say that they're more overlooked than they ought to be by the general public, for sure.
Yeah. And a lot of this band that we're talking about, a lot of musicians, especially on the male end, especially the ones that would play in what I would consider to be the masculine forms of music.
Yeah.
So like your rock, your blues, your
Yeah.
metal guys.
For
like
sure.
they really don't want to have anything to do with this band because, well, let's be frank, a lot of females like this band.
It's a ladies' band.
All right. And we exploited the fool out of that growing up, and we'll talk about that. The band we're speaking of, folks, is none other than the Dave Matthews Band.
Right there.
The Dave Matthews Band. And the album we're going to be reviewing is my favorite album by the band. Is this your favorite album?
It's tough. It's definitely up there. It might either be this or Crash. We got the vinyl Crash laying right here.
Yeah. This is Before These Crowded Streets. That's the one we're going to look at today.
Before These Crowded Streets.
I think I just remember very clearly when this album this album came out in 98, is that correct? I think that's right.
I didn't look at it before we came in here.
I did.
Yeah.
I'm asking to
keep it going.
To get discussion going. I do know that it came out in 98. However, I do know that in 98 I was still maybe a little under the radar as far as age-wise. I just missed that, But in the early 2000s, not long after that, when I was in high school, this was really a big album for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that for them, just as give a little brief overarch here, I think this may have been Dave Matthews Band's darkest moment.
Oh, definitely.
Would you agree? Which
Which is why it's probably my favorite.
Yeah. This is a dark
Definitely.
record. It also goes, we'll talk about this a little more, but it goes in about 15 different directions vocally.
Oh, yeah.
There's more vocal styles on this record than you can shake a stick at. Dave Matthews literally does like Native American chants and convincingly does them.
Yeah.
Right? He does like an operatic thing.
Convincingly.
He does like a really almost sinister evil metal kind of sound.
Yeah.
He does that. He does this almost scat-like jazz singing on it. I mean, it really...
He's no joke. Dave Matthews vocally is no joke. And this album, if you doubt it, or if you just haven't thought of him that way, it's one of the many reasons why you should check out Before These Crowded Streets. He'll prove it to you. He's
absolutely good. And I would suggest that Dave Matthews coming at vocally from probably not a very trained, educated way. I think he's just an artist.
Yeah, he's just doing what's natural, I think.
And we're gonna talk about probably each guy in the band here. But I do want to say that I think that as a guitar player, he is overlooked.
Oh, yeah.
Now, okay, when I say that, he's not a shredder. And Dave Matthews is not going to play guitar solos. I think he took like one solo in Jimmy Thing on the...
Octaves.
Yeah. It's real laid back thing, and it was cool. It was more like a riff than it was a solo. Yeah. He's not going to take guitar solos. The thing about Dave Matthews as a guitar player is there's something that's very precise but jangly about the whole thing, and it's not normal. It doesn't lay out in convenient patterns and shapes, and he's cultivated 100% his own style, both vocally and on the guitar.
So he had Dave Matthews in general, for me in particular, had a huge influence over a particular period of my playing and just how I was processing music, kind of through a Dave Matthews filter in early high school. And it's like he was one of the bands that I got obsessed with. Like I was obsessed with Nirvana at some point. I got obsessed with Dave Matthews at some point. And one of the things I think one of the things he does is he's super percussive. So it's got a lot more of a chop to it, but everything is those kind of chords, which is really root third, major and minor, major, minor. But he just moves around in those things. And what happens when he does that is he's muting so many strings, and his right hand is doing it, man. I mean, he's real rhythmic, and he just kind of works out of that root third vibe the whole time. So that was a big part of when I was learning all his tunes, learning that catalog was just kind of learning a different way to play chords.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Totally unique thing that you're not going to get from James Taylor, who also has his own unique thing. Exactly. You're not going to get it from any other acoustic player because it doesn't sound like anybody else.
Absolutely.
Let's also talk about this. When did this band? Just a brief overview here. When did this band actually come out? You remember?
91 or 2?
Yeah, it's like early 90s, right? Yeah. Folks, what was happening in the early 90s? Just consider this, like nothing.
Alice in Chains, man.
Yeah, nothing close to them. Right? It was the age of anger and grunge and dark, heavy music, which was super cool and it had its own little artistic form. In fact, I would argue that the 90s were the last era of actual artistic, rock music that came out. I'm talking about on a mainstream level.
Sure.
I realize that there's a lot of really dope bands that are coming out today. They're just not coming out on the radio.
Right.
So I mean like on a mainstream level. This band in the middle of, Bad Motorfinger and Rage Against the Machine self-titled and Blood Sugar Sex Magic and Nevermind and Tin and all these Metallica's Black Album, Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, all these hard rocking albums, and then all of a sudden there's this South African bartender, living in Virginia, playing an acoustic guitar,
all weird
and singing like seriously, he sang about as rhythmic as he played.
Oh, I know it, man.
So when you do that, and then it's not just enough to have him. You've got this pretty dope bass player, this kid, I believe,
he was
early
the youngest, on.
And then you've got a violin player who, for all practical purposes, was on roids,
sawing that thing in half.
Playing these. And then you got Leroy Moore blowing the saxophone, and then Carter Beaufort back there playing some sick drums. It's a crazy lineup of musicians.
Very odd, and they're coming in genre-wise in a niche kind of a place, whatever.
Niche
place. Like Grateful Dead took the jam band thing and ran with it all through the 80s and 90s. Jerry died in 95, and you had other bands really kind of picking up steam. Fish, Widespread Panic, if we're just talking about these jam bands. But I would say the Dave Matthews Band certainly is in that category.
Yeah.
They jam. They are about improvisation. They're about songs looking a little bit different every single night.
Yeah.
And it's weird if you're in that jam band kind of a circle to think of it this way. This is maybe, apart from the Grateful Dead, the most successful jam band in history.
Yeah.
They absolutely did it. And their live stuff, live at Red Rocks, which recently came up in one of our episodes, listener supported. We used to watch that like crazy, man. Listener supported on VHS was really my introduction to watching this band play.
Yeah,
a great live band.
How many times have you seen them?
Not many, like twice maybe.
I think I've seen them twice, 2 or 3. I've seen them 2 or 3 times. And it's true. They're different every night you go out. It's like they're not going to play the same set list twice in a row. And they have, the true followers of the Dave Matthews Band are in ways like the Grateful Dead. They keep count of the last time they played such and such. Like, they played Granny back in, April of 18. Like, I wonder if, they haven't played this since, whatever. So
very similar.
Hardcore fans keep up with that stuff, which is pretty cool. It's very cool. But not a lot of bands do that. And I think people don't understand. If you're not a performer and you're watching this, what you've got to understand is, so this is something that I think you'd have to do it once or twice to understand this. These guys are going out and playing in front of 60,000 people every night.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for people to, well, I should say it's very difficult for a type of player to go out in front of 60,000 people and really go, all right, boys, let's take this somewhere new.
Let's do it.
Like, it's much easier to say, let's rehearse the fool out of this set for 2 months. Let's have it and play it the exact same way. Even like the bands nowadays on a click track. We've got our lights queued up and the smoke and the bombs and the lasers and everything's just ready to go because we're on a click track and it'll be the same show every single night. It's very hard to find a real moment in that's like, oh, we killed it tonight, boys. It's kind of like, well, we sounded just like we did last night.
You're a product. You're not an artist. You know what I'm saying? It's
And you have to put on a different hat to really walk your butt out on stage in front of 60,000 people and say, let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really kind of a, like, here, let's find out. This is me. I'm exposing myself. I'm pouring my heart out right in front of you. Let's see if this works.
And this band does that.
Yeah.
I think they are faithful to do that when they go out and play, from what I've heard and what I've seen, and they're following the devout DMB people are very much like Deadheads, and they pay attention to that stuff. So,
well, let's get into it. I don't think we're going to take like an actual strict approach to this record. We're not going to go track by track.
Sure.
But I do think it's worth pointing out first, as we jump into it, that the whole record is a seamless record. It just it flows one song right into the next. You could tell that this was a very intentional album. Would you not say not just a collection of songs, a very intentional
intentional album. I think Steve Lillywhite was a big proponent of that in the studio, the way that they did certain stuff. It had a real kind of melding together effect, which is impressive anytime you're intentionally trying to make this group of 10 songs more like one song than say, like, all right, we got this tune, then the third track's going to be the single, then we got the B track song, then we got the all this kind of stuff, and it's real segmented, real compartmentalized. So to take it and let it flow and think about how you're going to smooth over these transitions, and with this album, which I'm sure we'll get to do that and cover so many bases in terms of vibe and style, genre, feel. I mean, they really do a good job with that.
Yeah, so what you have is, between all the songs, there's these little segments of music all throughout that are not songs. They're actually, if a song is listed at 5 minutes and 40 seconds, it's very possible that the song itself is 4 minutes and 50 seconds, and then you have close to a minute of just little snippets of music that tie you right into the next. Very cool, very creative process. Yeah. And also, it's very, not to be like getting mushy here, but it's very generous of the band, because what they did was they took musical ideas that they could have crafted into other songs and just gave you a little snippet of them and said, all right, here's this, and then we're off to the next song, which is cool.
I think it's very cool. Absolutely. Generous is a good way to look at it. So they come out of the gate with this island feel, this very kind of upbeat, the first two songs flow together in a real seamless way like this, but these first two things have a fun, loose party vibe. The island feel from the Pantala Naga Pampa, however you say that, and then Rapunzel ends up with just a real heavy-hitting jam sax solo at the end of that tune. Makes you groove just thinking about it. So it starts off kind of on that note. I think it's a real cool thing to pick up on out of the gate.
And it's the two, with the exception of track number, track number 5. With the exception of track number 5, those two and track number 5 are about the only bright spots on the record.
Pretty much. I mean, you got because the Dreaming Tree's dark at the end.
I think it's all pretty much.
Yeah, the rest of it is kind of dark.
Yeah,
So yeah, they do start off in it's almost like overtly happy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this album starts.
Come and relax now.
Yeah.
Leave your troubles down.
Oh, real happy and
Yeah.
Good feel.
Leave your troubles down. No need to bear the weight of your worries. Just let them all fall away. Don't drink the water is next.
Oh,
I mean, it's
man,
like, you know what I'm saying? So it's almost like maybe parody or something like.
Or the next one, is Last Stop, which is might be my favorite. Well, one of my probably top 3 on the song. Got a real cool, like almost like a rapper hip hop thing where they'll do like the little skits in between. So in between those first 2 songs, you got this little, hey, I'm on the phone, Greg, thing, and they're in it sounds like they're in a bazaar or some sort of market. And this thing has got a cool Middle Eastern kind of an Indian feel to it. Yeah. So. Yeah, Bela Fleck picks banjo on this tune. And the chorus is really
a lot of cool guests on this record.
Oh yeah,
I forgot. So Bela's on this, and Don't Drink the Water,
and Spoon,
Yeah, and so that I think that says a lot more than maybe you think it does. The fact that this band has a guest in Bela Fleck.
Oh yeah,
that says a lot about who this band is, who they run with. They run in the circles of Warren Haynes and Bela Fleck.
The company you keep. I mean, they're not having Britney Spears come sing on a track. They got Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
And, whatever you might think about Alanis Morissette, she's a lot cooler than Britney Spears.
She kills it on this record.
Oh, dude, she's really good. She sounds great.
She, especially later on Spoon, she really we'll save that. But
yeah, sure.
So The Last Stop, super dark. Then you get to a kind of a crowd favorite with Don't Drink the Water.
Oh, yeah.
Don't Drink the Water is... I would say this is the Dave Matthews Band's take on American history. Maybe let's just say I wasn't around back then, but for a lack of maybe picking a side, I would say that Don't Drink the Water is probably a more accurate portrayal of American history.
John Smith looks a little bit more probably realistic in Don't Drink the Water than in Pocahontas.
Yeah. And if you don't know Don't Drink the Water, go read the lyrics, and it's
It was the Indians' land, folks. Let's just call this thing what it is.
It was their land.
It was their house.
It was their land.
It's like me going outside looking for all the bird and squirrel nests and cutting the trees down. It was the same thing. We pushed them right
Except
on
we're
out.
talking about real people here.
Actual human beings.
And we said, your land is gone and given to me, and move on or I will bury you, is the lyrics in the song.
Oh, yeah.
All I can say to you, my new neighbor, is you must move on or I will bury you.
Yep.
I mean,
here's
the hitch. Your horse is leaving now. Don't miss the boat. It's leaving. That's the lyrics in the song.
Get on out, John.
Get on out. And I think it's really cool. It's a really... It's
a dope song. It hits hard live. They do it real heavy. They just like crashing.
It's a drop D song.
Drop D. Yeah. It rocks. No
and
doubt.
I live with my justice.
Oh yeah.
And the end of the song is where, man, the end of the song on the record is awesome because you've got Alanis Morissette behind him with her voice kind of in this desperate like, and I live with my great enemy. And it's like really.
She's laying it on thick.
Yeah, it's really and he's and while she's doing that, he's got this like and I live with my
he's growling.
He's really growling through it, and it's really great. But if you listen to it live at listener supported, this version, they just break it, and Carter's got the hats loose, and he's
oh yeah, man.
And they just grove that thing out. Oh, that's some nasty stuff.
That is good. It's a really good tune.
But then we're moving on to this again. Back up. We went through this dark period. Now we're on to this really happy song.
This Stay Wasting Time. The party tune. I mean, it sounds like a party tune, man.
Makes you wanna.
Oh yeah, it's got soul. You got the background singer vibe going on. Definitely, also a crowd favorite. One that they are faithful to really let it have it live. You know what I'm saying?
This is one they always cut Leroy loose on.
Oh yeah, and he plays really well. Oh yeah, that's a cool line.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of that thing.
I've noticed that I have a hard time discussing these songs without
sound effects.
without scatting them out, and I apologize for that in advance. But that's just going to be the way we do things.
I also have noticed that while I'm talking about these artists and what their tendency is, where I could say tendency, that I'm saying that they're faithful to do things. And I feel like my Bible-ness is just coming out and all of like talking about these things. They're really faithful to let you have it live on Stay Wasting Time. So I don't know that calling Dave Matthews Band faithful is like, yeah.
Oh, no, they're faithful to what they're faithful to not let you down when they're out and letting it rip.
You know?
Now, hey, let's get to this one. Because this next trio of songs is off the chain.
Yeah, it is.
This next trio is...
No, from here on, well, yeah, the next trio. But then, the last three.
It's all awesome.
The last three are special, man.
The last three are special. The last three, sorry, I said tree because it's...
Trio 3.
Well, and Dreaming Tree.
Mm-hmm.
But these two are the darkest ones on the record. Well, that's not true. Because Don't Drink the Water is dark and The Last Stop is dark. Halloween. Let's just forget trying to categorize them. Halloween. I mean,
Halloween is crazy. There's a really good... listen to it on Live at Luther College with Tim Reynolds, too.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think it's on there, and it's just acoustic, and they really break it down. You get more of a sense of kind of the skeleton of this song. Because I will say this. It's produced... It's not overproduced, but it is overproduced in comparison to that unplugged-ish version.
Yeah.
But on here, it's kind of... You don't feel the form of the tune. It's kind of... It's just crazy. It's and heavy. And this is where he does a lot of that gruff, kind of like the end of Don't Drink the Water. And then this is where the operatic debut kind of that... yeah, he does this whole thing on there, what Caleb was discussing earlier. And I'm pretty sure it's him. I mean...
Oh, it's him?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's bananas... Well, I said that. I wasn't there. I mean, I can only assume it was him.
If you know that for a fact it wasn't him, let us know.
Yeah. Hang on. Put it in the comments below.
Drop it in the comments.
Drop it in the comments.
So drop it. If this is your comment, do that with the information.
Oh, cool hand Luke.
Below. Sorry, I just.
The set is destroyed. Halloween is
killer tune.
He at a point during this song, he sounds like his throat is going to fall out of his neck.
It's like a screamo kind of a thing.
It really is. Yeah. It's nutty and insane. And then you have this really avant-garde string section.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I forgot about that.
And actually you have the you know, gong 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 gong. So
I will say there's a weird thing, like especially right now. I'm thinking about like how it works out in this thing. There's a sense of like a weird classy jazz nightclub meets an island funeral party. Is like the vibe of this album.
Maybe meets a death metal band.
But like he's talking about the end of this Halloween thing, there's this groove horn line that's like, where are we? But it's moving the ball forward.
Musically, this was when they were peaking. I think.
Man,
they experimented and they won.
They didn't get any better. They did some really cool stuff later on down the road. I think Gray Street, I think there are some singles that were really good.
Busted Stuff, yeah.
Busted Stuff is good. But this as an album is really good. And I haven't picked up on concept in terms of anything thematic lyrically, but I do think that they were making a point to meld all of these songs together. And there's a narrative musically that's running through it.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. So then you leave this super dark Halloween and go into this extra super dark The Stone. And do you remember, I'm going to tell a story real quick.
Yeah.
So Justin and I went to high school together. And one of our rituals, I'd hate to say how many times, we turned out okay, by the way.
We did.
I think we turned out okay. We're turning out okay.
Drop in the comments below. You think we turned out okay? Don't.
Too soon to tell. All right, so we would meet in the parking lot at school. You know, we'd have to get up because our parents were home. We had to get up and leave.
Yeah.
So we would get up and leave, and we'd meet in the parking lot at school, and we'd get into Justin's car or whatever. And then, you know, I had two sisters that went to the same school, and Jay's brother went to the same school, and they were all good students. And we would like let them go in, and then Justin and I would turn right around before we went to the door. We'd go back, get in Justin's car, and we would leave. And by this time, the parents are going to work and stuff. And we would go to my house, and I would play drums, and Jay would play guitar.
Yep.
And do you remember we would play the Stone for, for 20 minutes at a time?
Yeah. Well, the end of the Stone has this part on it. It goes, and it's so it was a cool part for Caleb, who, Caleb is primarily a guitar player. He's a great drummer, and at the time, I remember, I think this was during the season of your life where you were trying to decide if you wanted to commit to drums or commit to guitar.
That's right.
So there would be certain things, drive in, drive out, certain Carter type tunes that he would kind of hash out. But that, I remember playing the Stone, and really, that was the fun part of the song. At the end, it would get to this little thing, and we just kind of rock it out.
And the success was if we ended at the same time.
If we ended, boom, boom, and we're like, oh, yeah, we got it.
We were totally uneducated musically. It was like, no!
And end it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was better.
Yeah.
Great tune.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure what this song's about, but I don't think it's about anything positive. I have a feeling. Do you know what it's about? Is it about drugs?
I have this creeping suspicion.
Things here are not what they seem.
It may be about some sort of addiction, some sort of a habit. There's a needle reference in some. Is that in this song?
The needle is my great escape.
Maybe so.
Is that this song? Oh, hang on. We might be.
I'll lyric check you. You can keep talking.
Yeah.
So minor notes.
Either way, super dark, super cool, super heavy. Moving on though to the song that Justin and I. So yeah, we would start this thing out, and this is a song that we would use on the regular to try to get dates with.
Yep.
And that's Remember this?
Yeah, man.
Crazy how it feels tonight.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, brother.
That's the Smokey Jazz Club tune.
Yep. And I think
exactly
is there no video where they kind of played that a little bit?
I think that's more why the image is in my mind.
I think yeah. And it used to be, as a young man, it used to be, the guitar was super cool.
Oh, yeah.
But it was even cooler when it got the attention of the lady folk. And that's a true story. That's just, that's why never mind. When we would go up and say, "Hey, what's up? My name's Caleb. Crazy. You want to hear some Dave Matthews? Feels tonight."
Did I tell you I could play Dave Matthews?
Would you like to hear a song? Crazy. How you gotta close your eyes and make it all alright, love. Trust me with the.
Yeah, dude.
And ham it up.
So we learned that song is what we're saying.
We have played it before.
Played that one
before. You take the Dreamin' Tree. Let's hit it.
So the Dreamin' Tree, Pig and Spoon. This is my favorite section of the
album. It's like a trilogy, like that.
Oh man,
the closeout trilogy.
It is more somehow more kind of complex and like meandery. These last tunes. Well, not the last song. We'll talk about the last song in a minute. But the Dreaming Tree is it's got that it's got this line kind of through the whole thing, and it's different. It feels different. It feels looser than the rest of the tunes. I don't know, how would you describe it? It's kind of a strange song to describe, but
yeah, I would say that there's a really good contrast that happens in this song. It has this really dark groove that we just talk about 7/8, and it's
7/8 groove.
Yeah, did it, and it's. I'm not gonna hum it. Sorry, I get in the habit of doing that all the time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So
I did it for him.
There you go. Thank you. You have that, and then it does a really stark contrast to this really bright, pretty section, which is really cool. I mean, they play off of each other super well, and you actually get a nice Leroy flute solo. He becomes the flautist.
The flautist. Leroy the flautist.
Yeah. So I would say yes, absolutely cool song. Yeah. The way they choose to end this record, I see that as the beginning of the end of the record. I think, it seemed like they belong together.
The last three.
They're almost, all right, listen to me when I say this, because hear me out. I don't mean this like it sounds like them. What I mean is it kind of has a Pink Floyd thing to it. Does that make sense?
It does.
It doesn't sound anything like Pink Floyd, but what I mean is there's a mood that gets kind of captured in the last three songs that's not in any of the other parts.
Well, think about it. It's dark, it's intentional, it's creative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that is Pink Floyd.
That's Pink Floyd. And creative, not just like, oh, you're an artist, you're a musician, so you're creative. This is distinctly unique record making. Like, the way we've already talked about the little mini tunes that tie the tunes together and all of this kind of stuff is extra work. It's good to say this is a generous, unnecessary effort to be unique and creative. Mm-hmm. So, the whole album is especially creative.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so Pig is the second to last one here. And would you not say that Pig is like the quintessential Dave Matthews song? Like,
oh, yeah.
It's
tight hi-hat.
Yeah. It's weird, but it has this kind of lift to it.
Yeah.
Come sister, come brother.
Yeah.
It's like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, man, like you can get down on Pig. Like it may not be as dark as the others.
There's something about Pig that is more intricate, and it might be that hi-hat sound, that real wristy hi-hat thing. I don't know a better way to describe it. You might know what I'm talking about. But it's also wordy. The whole tune is wordy. It's a lot of lyrics, and they're cool. It's real poetic. But it's busier and just a little bit more meandery and just kind of...
Yeah. A lot of character in his voice, too, in this song.
A lot of character in his voice. But then, like he talked about, when you hit to that chorus, boom, come, sister, it kind of opens up and you get a little bit more of a groove to it. So it's cool.
This is one of those songs, to you guys who are out there playing in bands or starting bands up, this is one of those songs that... And we call these something, and let's just call him Fred.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call it Fred.
Fred.
So a Fred song is a song that it doesn't look difficult to play on paper. It really doesn't.
Mm-mm.
But when you try to put it together as a unit, it just doesn't work.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like this is one of those songs.
This would be hard. Like, this would be a hard song to play.
Yeah, even though it's not a hard song to play, it's a hard song to play. We couldn't make it sound like that.
This is the kind of song that, and there's been moments when Caleb and I have looked back, even in our writing original music and being in bands in the past, and you look at it and you think like, man, that was like a different kind of a thing. Like that was we couldn't really do that again right now if we wanted to. But yeah, no, I think that's the kind of song that you sort of have to be in that band and have been a part of the creative process to be able to effectively, persuasively pull it off.
Yeah.
Like stuff that we wrote in the past, like you just couldn't sit down and do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and sometimes it's more than just, do you know how to play the parts?
Or know the chords.
Yeah, or know the chords. It's like, can you feel out how this song goes and how it works? It's a complex thing, and that's why I call it Fred, because I don't have a name for it. Like, a song where, I know how it goes, but I also can't really capture it. It's a strange thing. And it's usually when the band itself somehow just captures lightning in a bottle and then move on,
I grabbed this just to say, like, number 41, a Dave Matthews tune. A minor is the first chord, but he doesn't play A minor. He does this... So, I mean, you could play it.
Right.
But it's different.
It is different.
So I think that a lot of those Fred tunes, that's just an example on guitar, but I think that it's similar on any instrument. Like, it's not just knowing, like, what's good enough to get by with the tune.
That's right, yeah.
It's knowing it the right way.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the little things. It's what is Leroy playing in the background? Is Boyd like droning something that you honestly don't even necessarily hear unless you take it out?
Yeah.
And a lot of times there's stuff when you try to put it together, like in a rehearsal setting, and you sit there and you scratch your head and you're like, God, I mean, what are we missing? We're doing it right, but it doesn't sound right. A lot of times it's the stupid little things like that. Like Boyd could be in the background just droning something.
You don't realize how dependent it is on that part.
It makes the song what it is.
Absolutely.
Until you take it out, and then you go, oh, yeah. Well, so yeah, cool song. And then here, the last song on the record is my favorite song. And I don't have any problem saying that. It might be my favorite Dave Matthews song.
It's a great song.
I realize that it might be a little strange.
Yeah.
Because it's not a big Dave Matthews hit, if there is a such thing. Is there
Crash.
Is that a hit, though?
Crash did good. I don't know.
Did it chart? I mean, What Would You Say chart? I don't know.
I mean, the ones, I guess you think of them as their hits.
If you know if Crash or What Would You Say charted,
drop them.
Drop them. Drop them in the comments below. Let us know. I'd be happy to hear about it. Because here's the thing, guys. Listen, I love to not go to Wikipedia for everything. Sometimes it's cool to be like, yo, my boy told me that something.
But let me just say this.
Instead of...
You people at Wikipedia, I'm grateful for you.
Man, I'm grateful for you people at Wikipedia too. Even though I think technically the people at Wikipedia are us.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't it actually?
There's something about that though. That I don't know Wikipedia, but I'm way more trusting in them because of the logo and how the page is real white. I feel like it's from a doctor's office. I feel like I get WebMD and Wikipedia confused, and I'm reading about what year this album was released with the same kind of enthusiasm as if I'm trying to see like, do I have it? Do I need to go get checked?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like reading it with the same like discerning eye.
Wikipedia will tell you if you have the Rona. It's a fact.
It'll tell you if you got it, man.
Listen, my favorite Wikipedia thing. I'm sorry, we're just going here. My favorite Wikipedia moment. So we're both Braves fans. We grew up Braves fans, and we will be Braves fans until we are no longer breathing.
That's right.
But Ronald Acuna Jr. There was a little bit of back and forth. Actually, there was a couple fights because they kept plunking him.
Yeah.
Now look, I am not one of those guys.
Marlins kept it.
Yeah, the Marlins, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys that thinks that like, oh, there's no room for that in baseball. You know, I'm not gonna virtue signal people about how like all the baseball writers, they go out there, they're like, oh, there's just no room for that in the game, you know, and it's like, okay, let me write about it. You know, these guys never set foot on a field ever once in their life. Yet the reality of baseball is let the players govern the game. You know, the players will police themselves. And dude, here's the thing. If you want to watch your home run go, dude, watch your home run go.
Absolutely.
Watch it go. You can stand there for 5 minutes. Now, wait a minute, understand, you're probably going to get drilled your next at bat. But if you're okay with getting drilled and you just hit a 450-foot bomb, brother,
watch it.
How many people in this planet can hit a 450-foot bomb?
Let me just tell y'all, I would watch it.
Brother, man, come on. If I connected with a guy, so you got to remember, this guy, right, 90 feet away from me is getting paid millions of dollars to strike me out.
And he's at best or at worst, whatever, he's probably going to be successful like 7 out of 10 times.
Right. So, yeah, no, that's a fact. Yeah, and that's if you're a Hall of Famer.
300 batting average.
If you hit 300 as a career, which you connect,
he's zinging it 96 miles an hour and absolutely carving that plate,
and
man.
It moves.
Moving.
96 and it moves. It doesn't just go straight down the pipe. So if that guy is getting paid this much money to strike me out, and I groove his fastball 450 feet out into the stands,
put yourself in the position right now. You see it coming. You actually time it right. You get a jump on that thing. You get your hips through, connect, and you watch that thing jump.
Yeah.
And go to the second deck.
And here's what's crazy,
dude. I'm watching that thing until it lands,
come on. Now look, we haven't played baseball since high school, but we hit a couple home runs, right? We had a couple home runs. Even at that level, when you hit them, you don't even feel it.
It just goes.
It's like, did I even swing the bat? It's like I never felt the ball. And can you imagine something coming that hard and it's you just crack that bat, brother? My point is, you can watch it run, and then you can take your bag. Understand that his prerogative is I want to plunk you next time you come to the bat. And you're a punk if you run after him because, look, you showed him up on the field. Right? You can be the good sportsman and crank one and then stick your head down and do the Cal Ripken Jr. thing and run around the bases. Right? But you can also Ken Griffey Jr. that bad boy and walk literally halfway down first base just staring.
And I bet you I bet you Cal has a couple home runs that he remembers where he wishes he would have watched it.
It's a fact.
Because I'll tell you this, the first home run that I ever hit in like a legitimate game, I was too nervous and I didn't even look and I was like sprinting to first base and the first base coach was doing this and that's how I knew it was a home run. I look back wishing I could have admired that. I didn't even know where it landed. I just was like, where did it go? It went over the fence.
I knew I got a hold of it.
I got a hold of that dude, you know.
All right, hey, my point is, and then I got to tell another story. My point is, my favorite Wikipedia moment.
Yes, that's right. That's
Acuna Jr. was crushing the Marlins, and I don't know what happened. It was just like he became another person, which is great because historically, no matter how bad the Marlins were, they would always pester the Braves. They would always win, and they would be an out of the contest team. They're out of the race, and then they'd make us go into like the wild card slot because they kept beating us. It's stupid. Or they'd beat the teams that we needed to lose. Like they always just got on our nerves. Well, listen, we had this stud Rookie of the Year kid come up, Ronald Acuna Jr. And at the time, Rookie of the Year candidate. Well, he's crushing them, and they start drilling him. But they're not doing the cool kind of drilling. You know what I'm saying?
Throwing at his head.
Yeah, they're throwing up at his noggin. They're busting him in the ribs. They're throwing like normally when they throw, man. I'm not saying they pull their punch, but I'm saying they don't rear back and move a 101 right into your shoulder blades. You know, I mean they hit you and you move on, that kind of thing. They don't want to hurt you necessarily. The Marlins wanted to hurt him. Mm-hmm. All right, so there's all this stuff going on. Well, some Braves fan figured out how to go on to the Wikipedia page, and where it normally says the owner of the Florida Marlins, they went onto the Marlins site and it says, you know, city, you know, Miami, and then it says owner. Somebody changed it from Derek Jeter to Ronald Acuna Jr. No, it said general manager Derek Jeter, owner Ronald Acuna Jr. It's a long detour. Hey, great. Fun story.
Yeah.
Justin and I once were a part of back-to-back-to-back home runs in middle school.
That's true.
We played middle school baseball together.
We were members of the Holbrook Middle School baseball team. We were playing at home versus the Cramerton Middle School Golden Eagles or some mess.
Something that was not intimidating.
Yeah, at all.
And you were let's see, you were hitting fifth, I was hitting fourth, and Matt Teague was hitting third. And Matt hit it in the park because it was like the softball field was out in deep center. So he just hit it really far and just ran around the bases. Yeah. And then I came up and hit one over left field fence. Yep. And then Justin came up right after me and hit one over left field fence. Yeah. And that was like the coolest sports moment of my life.
Oh, that is the best moment of my baseball playing. And I think our home run balls, somebody told me they were like a few feet apart. Like they pretty much landed.
Mine was probably a little farther, but
maybe. It wasn't. I hit mine so far.
I also broke a county record. Do you remember that?
Running
what
400?
Are we talking about? What's happening right now?
Caleb ran the 400 in the 8th grade, 57 seconds?
No, 52 seconds.
Excuse me.
52 seconds, folks.
Yeah.
I almost died after.
Yeah.
Because I was in baseball season and they pulled us out and took us to the track because they needed some points. And I went out there and I was like, so what's a 400? And they were like, well, you just run around one time. And I went to the starting line. They're like, no, don't go to the starting line. You have to go way out there to that arrow. And I went, you mean I get a head start? And they're like, it's not a head start, dummy. It all evens out around the last turn. And I went, oh, yeah, whatever. Just where do I end? And they're like, you start here. When they shoot the gun, you run all the way to the finish line. And I said, well, that seems really easy until you've never run a 400 before. And it's miserable because it's not long enough that you can like stride it out, and it's not short enough where you could just flat out sprint the whole thing. So what you have to do is sprint the whole thing. Yeah. But it's like uncomfortable sprint. You know, it's like about 250 meters after an uncomfortable sprint, and it's like, yeah, I almost passed out at the end of it. All right,
anyway. The only 400 I ever ran, I don't care, I'm talking about it. The only 400 I ever ran was at a football game against Hunter Hutz. I had an Ashbrook Greenway flag. We're at Hunter House.
These are our rivals, folks.
These are our rivals. And we I guess we were winning. I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you. And I jumped.
We didn't care.
I jumped off the wall from the stands with a flag and just proceeded to try to sprint around a whole lap. And I made it I got to the other side. I ran a 200, I guess. Got to the other side where their fans are. And they were chucking full soda cans at me. These things weighed a pound. And they're singing them at me. Oh. So then I got to pick up the pace. And I made it 3/4 of the way. And then I walked dragging that flag in the last quarter mile. Or quarter
You were a smoker then, too.
I was not hanging on. I was like, that was fun. Boy, let's go home.
Boy, there's a detour. I tell you what, we were discussing the Dave Matthews album.
We were, weren't we?
We were on the last track, and how this happened, I'm not really sure. But
oh man, last song, favorite song was yours?
Oh, 100% favorite song.
Spoon.
It's got a dope Bela Fleck solo.
It does.
It's got some cool lyrics that mean nothing.
Alanis Morissette sings very well.
She gets actually a feature in this song.
She
gets a whole verse to herself.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna read those lyrics to you right now from the old noggin. All right. From time to time, minutes and hours. Some move ahead while some lag behind. It's like a balloon that rises and then vanishes. This drop of hope that falls from his eyes.
It's beautiful.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care what it means and who's saying it. If I wrote that, I'd lay down my head at night and be like, Caleb, that was a fine job. You did a fine work today, my friend.
That's right.
Well done.
Some people call me Robert Frost.
2 roads diverged in a wood, and I wrote freaking Spoon.
That's how I would feel about it.
That's right. All right, so,
yeah.
Hey, you know what? Let's, why don't we pick it? You want to pick it for him?
Let's play it.
Let's pick it for him real quick.
Let's do it.
Nice.
Look at there. Look how I got here.
Yeah, man. Strange chord progression, by the way, in this one. It's not every day you see this. We talked about it with the Doors some, like these parallel shifts in minor and major.
Minor and major, yeah.
This is not a song that goes from the minor tonality to its relative major. It goes from E minor to E major.
Super dope.
It is way cool. And let's play this bad boy. You ready? 2.
Stirring my coffee, I thought of you and turned to the gate, and on my way came up with the answers. I scratched my head and the answers were gone. Blood sand, could that be God? Crosses cross hung out like a wet rag. Forgive you, I hung me out to dry. And maybe I'm a little crazy, but laughing out loud makes the pain pass by. And maybe you're a little crazy, but laughing out loud makes it all move ahead, and some lag behind. It's like the balloon that rises and then vanishes. This drop of hope that falls from his eyes. Stirring my coffee, I think of this and turn to go away. But as I walk, there's voices behind me saying, "Sinner, sin, come now and play."
Hey y'all, thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. See you next time.